Last Tuesday, or was it Wednesday? Okay, on a Blur's Day sometime in the past month, which only serves to prove the point, I came to the stark realization that I'm living in a bizarre time warp, in which it seems simultaneously interminable, and yet no matter how many hours I spend on Zoom, Slack, FaceTime, WebEx, in the inbox or otherwise, 5 o'clock rolls around and it's never been enough time to manage all the replies. But I mostly refrain from working all evening from the couch because all the experts talk about how you need to turn it off or you'll be even less productive the next day. And who has time for that? But even when I get 7 hours of sleep, it's more like 7 hours of chasing or being chased or time traveling to when I was someone else doing something else somewhere else. And the experts have an explanation for this as well. And all those years of being my own harshest critic are coming in so handy now as the numbers creep up on the scale, because I have years of experience of eating my feelings too. And what self-respecting Gen Xer is not going to turn to Pop-Tarts in her time of existential crisis? So here's to another Blur's Day, fueled by cups of coffee I've lost count of, in the midst of a year not marked by 525,600 minutes, but by an infinitesimal number of doubts and questions, and few answers in return. One must use the preface, all things considered, because when so much of your life is still stitched together, your home, your career, your marriage, your life, when the world has fallen apart around you, it seems petty to mention the exhaustion from living under the weight of all that has been this year, when others have had to say their last goodbyes via video and bury their loved ones alone, when the act of breathing or tasting is something to no longer take for granted, as choices have been made between food and shelter and medical care. To have all of that in my hands, who am I to complain about the vivid dreams that steal my rest, or the incessant worry of carrying the vid into my home, or the feeling that none of it will be enough in the end? Who am I to say I'm weary? There are so many carrying much heavier loads. Yet to not temper my privilege may be cruel in the face of the greater burden. So, all things considered, I'm great, thanks. Just a few more weeks until, from my couch, as usual, I can watch the ball drop over an empty Times Square, not as usual, with a hint of hope tempered by trepidation. No switch will be flipped to extinguish the dumpster fire of this year. No, that smoke will still bellow and seep and spread to remind us of all we missed and lost to ash. But to have even a glimmer that next year might end more like this one began, before the scars wrought by pandemic and social unrest and by diagnoses far from expected appeared inside and out, that might be enough to carry through a few more days, weeks, months of this existence that sometimes resembles life, before we forget what life really feels like. I've lost count of the number of times I've read and heard this word. Unprecedented times, unprecedented numbers, unprecedented events, over and over, almost prayer-like, as if we can absolve ourselves for failing to act. Because how could we have known? There's never been such a plague, there's never been such injustice, there's never been such grabs for power. Oh, but there has. Our inability to look back, to be aware, awake, to know of generations past is not an excuse, but an indictment of our lazy, weak nature, doomed to repeat history because we refuse to learn something as simple as the meaning of a word: unprecedented. No, there's precedent, but there are none so blind as those who refuse to see.